Vidyut. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here.
Massive congratulations on your PBS debut. That's happening. I think everyone should go watch that movie. I watched that movie myself.
Those guys who are saying that we are taking away American jobs.
We don't want
We
to.
don't want to.
America has a secret weapon, the H-1B, the genius visa.
You present us with a challenge and it makes us both happy, with not immigration.
We have been approved for green cards since 2010. We are in backlog.
Amazing movie, very heart touching. Why did you decide to make a movie on it?
I love this question. Why did I make this film? Yeah, well, I'm an immigrant myself. I came to this country in 2006. We deplaned at San Francisco International Airport because we were living in Silicon Valley then. And the first thing that I saw was at the immigration, there were two distinct queues. One was labeled US citizens. I said, okay, great, we are not there yet. And the other was labeled aliens. And I was like, whoa, who are these aliens?
Who is your real audience? What was your real mission in this?
Within my community, within my friends, relatives, family, like literally everyone is suffering. Like nobody is immune to the broken immigration system effects. Let's state that. I mean, this is not an opinion, this is a fact.
If this problem is affecting a large portion of highly skilled immigrants who essentially are the backbone of, let's say, America's tech industry or America's healthcare industry, then why isn't it a big enough political issue for it to matter on a legislation level?
I think there is any will, there is any intention. Brilliantness and equality issue rather than a race issue. So because traditionally what has happened, Republicans and Democrats, have their different ways of dealing with the immigration system, right? You said the will is not there within us, like as a community, for whatever reasons. Again, no judgments here, okay? But the will is not there to really put everything at stake and fight for this issue. There are, again, very few hundred people fighting for this. And, being at the political, level, at Congress and senators, I mean, there is no intention, it feels like, to fix this problem.
Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here.
Really excited to have this conversation with you as well. I've just finished watching your movie, and it's an amazing movie, very heart touching. My first question to you is: see, you've been through this journey, you've been through the whole immigration journey. Why did you decide to make a movie on it?
I love this question. So I came to this, well, by the way, thank you so much for this platform, and a great big hello to all your viewers. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a great opportunity. I really feel honored to be here. So much. Why did I make this film? Yeah, well, I'm an immigrant myself. I came to this country in 2006. Well, I was newly married. I did not come here for studies or for job. I came here because I fell in love with a with a guy who was from my college. He was already here in Cupertino. I was on H-1B visa. We decided to get married, and he did ask me, "Do you really want to come here, or should I move back? I'm okay to do that." He was ready to do that for love. I was like, "Oh, that's great. No, don't worry, I'll come there." So we decided to come to the US together. He was already here on H-1B, so I came here on H-4 visa. And as soon as you deplane and you get into the immigration queue, right? That's the first thing you have to do. We deplaned San Francisco International Airport because we were living in Silicon Valley then. And the first thing that I saw was at the immigration, there were two distinct queues. One was labeled at the US citizens. I said, okay, great, we are not there yet. And the other was labeled aliens. And I was like, whoa, who are these aliens? And my husband is a very practical person, very matter of fact. We were walking and I just froze in that moment. Literally, it was like a very cinematic moment. I still remember. I froze. literally. And he just came back. He said, "What happened?" And okay, I'm like, what's this? Who are these aliens? He's like, "That's immigrants." Very matter of fact. Very matter. I'm like, gosh, no way. That cannot be the thing. It's like, yeah, can we very matter? This immigration, we have baggage to claim, and then we have a 45-minute, 1-hour drive to, Santa Clara, where we had our home. No way. Okay. So that was the trigger to even think about this. This immigration. Okay. How basically, drive to immigrants, aliens, that was a complete no-no for me. I felt, oh, come on, English-speaking country, you could do better with vocabulary. And think of rhetoric matters, especially, when you're doing this at such a massive international stage and just think about aliens, Simon, like most people who come to Silicon Valley for their job or even for, studies, San Francisco is the melting pot of immigrants, right? Over there, if you have a label called aliens, you are kind of making a statement which is not really welcoming. So that was the trigger. And then I was on H4 too. So obviously I couldn't work. You really lose your identity. We all know that, what it is to be on H4 visa. You cannot work, you cannot study unless, you're okay to study on H4 visa. But so I said, okay, let me make a film about H4 visas. But, while I was researching, while I was interviewing, I realized this problem is much bigger than just one visa, right? And then you cannot stall that project, went and studied at San Francisco San Francisco University, and worked on an absolutely different project. But this project always stayed with me. And bigger. After I got my green card, I got back to this project. I said, okay, you know what? Fine. I got to the so-called other side of the line, but there are
finish line. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There are so many thousands and thousands of people who are still stuck in this bad green card backlog. Then what is green card backlog? Why do, Indians, massively get hurt because of that, right? Because of the per country cap. So I started doing research and I just felt compelled and I said, okay, I got to make this project. I started it, paused it, but then I have to come back to it. So this story needs to be told. There are fortunately in the mainstream public domain, we hardly ever hear these stories about high-skilled immigrants backlog. What I do realize and absolutely acknowledge that there is a story at the borders that is happening. Those are gut-wrenching stories. Those also need due diligence. However, there is an immigration crisis brewing within the country, and it is brewing within the communities who are highly qualified, law-abiding, tax-paying, lawful residents of this country. All they aspire is to have a good life here, good professional life, thrive in these communities, and they give so much back, to the economy and to the communities. So I said, okay, there is a story that needs to be told, and why wait for someone else to do it? Why not me?
Yeah. No, actually resonates with me a lot because one of the things we address is the whole legal immigration inefficiency. Yeah, there is all this illegal immigration happening, and that needs its own kind of action. But the main part here is if you make legal immigration super hard, and like how the rhetoric is, if illegal immigration is easier than legal immigration in some ways, then like Elon Musk said, the citizens are imprisoned and then the criminals are loose. I mean, he used it in a different analogy for, what's happening in different places. But then that same analogy, if you kind of tone down the criminal side and the citizen side a little bit, it translates here as well, where people who are actually doing things legally, it feels like they are confined in a cage, and then everyone else who are like willing to just circumvent that are loose. And it's kind of like, the Joker is in charge. It's not the state in charge, the Joker is in charge type of a thing. Yeah. But I felt like, it's not a one-to-one map, but I felt like that analogy is applicable in a lot of places. But the main funda here is that when legal immigration is so hard and you're making a movie about it, who is your real audience? What was your real mission in this? Was it to drive awareness in the people who are suffering or are about to suffer? Like, for example, students, like they have no clue what's awaiting them, right? Like it's everything is a la la land until it actually hits you, and then it's too late. Or did you make this movie to kind of hoping that someone from Congress or like lawmakers would take a look at it and then, bring about a change in the whole legal immigration process, especially for people from India and other backlogged countries?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because I've kind of struggled with it, right? I made this film because in within my community, within my friends, relatives, family, like literally everyone is suffering. Like nobody is immune to the broken immigration system effects. Let's state that. I mean, this is not an opinion, this is a fact. Every nationality in some shape or form, faces the brunt of broken immigration, right? But yes, the diaspora, the Indian immigrants specifically, they face the worst side of immigration system, which is broken, right? That is like up to 195 years of wait for green cards. And there's so many things, aging out kids, if the primary visa holder dies, what happens to the spouse? There are so many like layers and layers of issues. But the audience here, Simon, I would say is non-Indians for me. Immune is the local American people. Because you know what? Americans, I would say at large, in general, they really, really love the fact that people coming from other countries, if they're contributing, if they're law abiding, if they're helping this economy grow in diaspora, they are supporting. Like, I mean, aren't we all hand in hand working with the Americans here? And when I say Americans, sometimes I feel let's be very clear. I'm talking about first generation and second generation, Americans who have come from other countries. But there have been, everybody is an immigrant, right, in America. So they all know that maybe some people came generations back, some people came, few hundreds of years back, and, some people came few months back. But everybody is an immigrant here. But these people are working hand in hand, but they are very oblivious to the fact that there is a community that is suffering the most. So there could be, in a radius of 80 miles, there could be a doctor. Maybe it's an Indian doctor, right? An Indian immigrant doctor who is serving the community. The community loves the doctor, but they are completely oblivious to the fact that probably that doctor is on a H4 EAD, right? And with a stroke of a pen, that H4 EAD could go away, and they will lose the doctor in that area, probably because nobody wants to come there. So these are some really hard facts, realities of life. And I felt that there is a need. And some people say I'm a UX designer also. Okay, that's my day job. And I always believe back, if you want to solve the problem, first you really need to know what the problem is, right? Understand the problem, empathize with it, and then accept that there is a problem. There are a lot of people who don't really consider this as a problem because they feel, you come here on visas, you're highly qualified, your kids go to good school, you travel, what's the problem? And I understand, because if the comparison is between an immigrant who is highly qualified, who comes here, who is thriving professionally, and the comparison is with somebody who has to cross the border, right? Come here in a hidden way and, get caught at the border. So
in trucks or something, yeah.
Yeah, like the comparison is not fair. In fact, every immigrant, every person, needs their fair justice. I don't think that you should really compare. But say, I understand that people just compare you with some other immigrants who are not in that category, and they say, you really don't have any problem, right? This is not a problem. So my whole effort is to sensitize the community that, guys, there is a problem. Unless you accept that there is a problem, you cannot even have a diagnosis on it, right? If you refuse to go to the doctor, then no, I don't have any problem, I'm not going to go to the doctor cannot help you. You have to help yourself, to get that help. So that was the whole intention. So my audience, ideally, is not the people who are stuck in the green card backlog. However, I would say there is an addendum to that. I definitely want to make sure that, as you had mentioned, in fact, Simon, and I would say that is your copyright, that let's not normalize this problem. We need to amplify the problem. You had said that, and it was really profound. What has happened is that in our community, we have normalized this problem. And yahan pe to aise hota hai, this is how it is. Come on, what are you complaining about? Well, we are complaining about the injustice. We are complaining about the unfairness. We are complaining about not treating all immigrants equally, right? Problem, as you said, if you are a refugee or an asylum seeker, probably will get a work permit visa sooner. Their spouses will be able to work, but anybody on H1B and their spouses cannot work, till they reach a certain stage in their green card process. Yeah. So it's so broken, like it's not commonsensical. If you look at the immigration system, and if you saw the film, probably that's the first takeaway, right? Gosh, It's absurd. And to make exactly, I want people to understand problem. I have empirical evidence that people have reacted to into cancers, and we showed the film. I mean, most of the people in the audience were white Americans. They were not immigrants from India, but they were so sensitive to the fact that it was just mind boggling for them. They just got up from their seats and said, why is this happening? That is the thing about should ask these questions. And who are these people? People who are not just stuck in the green card backlog or immigration issues, but people who are beyond that. They have no clue about it. Because you know what? These people then become champions of your cause, right? They will go to these town halls. They will go to these senators and congressmen and ask these questions. That why are these highly contributing people being asked to leave the country? Why are these highly contributing people just made to suffer here? Humiliate here, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Probably that is it's a little longish answer.
No. I mean, it had all the points that's necessary. We'll get back to the movie. I actually want to go through a lot of cases that you've covered in the movie because it deserves mention. But then if you get back to the whole immigration system and the way that normalization is in the Indian mind, or generally in minds of people which are used to have being subjected to suffering in a way. I am just wondering, is it just that Jugadu kind of we'll deal with it and we'll get past it in some way kind of a mentality that's making people normalize it? Or is it it simply doesn't make sense? Because if this problem is affecting a large portion of highly skilled immigrants who essentially are the backbone of, let's say, America's tech industry or America's healthcare industry, then why isn't it a big enough political issue for it to matter on a legislation level?
Good question, Simon. Thank you so much for asking. Wow. I have thought about it a lot, that why haven't we been able to make a big noise about this? I have not really found any concrete answer. Let me be very honest with you. The one thing that I mean, this has come about a lot during the discussions while I was filming this also, that is this a race issue? Is it? We all have to ask this question. I don't have an answer. I have opinions, but I don't have a concrete fact-based answer, because you know what? I don't think we'll ever get an answer on that, because one of the characters in the film has actually echoed the sentiments that this issue, had bothered or, had affected some European country, would this probably have continued? Maybe not, right? But, again, it's a choice we are making. I personally, I'm making it a choice, that brilliant fairness and equality issue rather than a race issue. I can say that. But I respect the fact that people do feel that this is a race issue. Again, we got to acknowledge it, right? I cannot, as a filmmaker, I don't want to just brush it off saying, oh no, this has nothing to do with race issue. No, could be. That could be an underlayer, because what are the chances? I have thought, people who are the worst affected are Indians, then Chinese people, Filipino people, right? So people who are from they're not predominantly from the developed world, as it is perceived. I mean, a lot. Coming back to your question about why there isn't much done about it, because I don't think there is any will, there is any intention. Correct question. At least the way the situation is right now, there is any intention to fix this problem. Because traditionally what has happened, Republicans and Democrats, have their different ways of dealing with the immigration system, right? I have understood through my research is that there is one part had to do a comprehensive immigration reform. We don't want to fix only high-skilled immigrant bucket. We want to do everything right. Well, that's very utopian. So, a very, one person filmmaking, somebody who has lived with this issue for almost 18 years that have been in this country and 7 years actively working on this project. I think that's a massive undertaking to, have an immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform. It's a good intention. We got to nothing wrong with it. Now, the other party is you cannot, absolutely, illegal immigration cannot be encouraged, and, there are repercussions and conclusions about all that. Are there any concrete steps yet taken about legal immigration? There are lots of talks, which is great. at least it's a good beginning. However, tangibly, have we really seen anything? Has the needle moved? Like, let's face it, there is one talks are pro legal immigration. I want to see the actions also. We don't want to, and that nugget is missing in both the parties when they were in power. I agree with that. I don't know what you feel about that, right? Now, what is happening at the people level, like, people who are already suffering? I think, as you said, we just absorb it, like, okay, we are in a new country. This is how it is, it's going to just take time. Okay, my family is still fine. My kids are still going to school. And I understand, people are so grappling with their everyday issues. They really probably don't have any kind of stamina left now to, get up and, just fight for this. So of course, in their own way, probably, they are on Twitter. They are probably joining advocacy groups. And there are a lot of people who do that. They do very strong advocacy. There are some nonprofits, they do that, right? Immigration Voice. And there are so many other people who do that. However, I think the number of people who are contributing or participating in this are far less than the problem is. The problem is huge. But if you have few hundred people fighting for millions of people, that's not going to work. You look at the other immigration issues like DACA, right? Yep. Just look at the boots on the ground, that are there. Many people really fight for immigration issues that are applicable for illegal immigration. There are lots and lots of people, like thousands of people come on the street.
On humanitarian grounds most of the time. Yeah.
Exactly. But how many people are really willing to take time from their busy schedules and come out for a high-skilled immigration? We high-skilled immigrants ourselves don't do that.
Correct.
So you said the will is not there within us, like as a community, for whatever reasons. Again, no judgments here, okay? But the will is not there to really put everything at stake and fight for this issue. There are, again, very few hundred people fighting for this. And, at the political, level, at Congress and senators, there is no intention, it feels like, to fix this problem. Get standard solutions. At the end of the day, what happens as a community is that we'll take whatever we get, right? So H4 EAD came in, great. I really feel everyone who was on H4, and had reached the I-140 stage, that certain stage in green card processing, they all got benefited. And so many lives have improved because of that. So many people have probably avoided getting into, any kind of depression or loss of identity, those issues that, and mostly women were grappling with that. I'm so happy that, Obama administration took that step, signed that executive order. But again, let's not forget it's a band-aid solution.
Yep. Yeah. No, all of these solutions are band-aid upon band-aid upon band-aid. Wow. So it's easily rippable. So it's not created through instrument from Congress. The instruments from Congress are still part of the same problem, which is the country cap and the backlog and stuff like that. And all these band-aid solutions, they have a life of an administration, and it's the willingness of the next administration to continue it or remove it, etc., through a presidential order. If you look at the whole high-skilled immigration crisis that is going on, and I actually call this a crisis because when you look around you, there's nobody. It's one thing to know that there are some pockets of people that are affected, and then it's a totally different ballgame to look around you and be who is free from this? Nobody. Everybody that you see, it's just that, is your situation better than mine or worse than mine? Do you have a longer wait or do I have a longer wait? Yeah. The conversation should never be that. The conversation should basically be I'm going to put all my effort and time and dedication into building my career and also building the economy along with it. And then all of these other things will take care of itself. But I also feel for the large part, again, I don't want to make it specific to Indians, but in general, I think Asians from the Asian continent, let's say, have a slight habit of closing the door behind you. When you get past a certain milestone, let's say it's a green card or a naturalization or whatever, we close the door behind us. It's okay, ours is done, doesn't matter anymore, type of a thing, which is very weird because even now, it is, I mean, yes, the Asian vote or the Indian vote is not a huge agenda in the whole politique of the US, even as much as it is, let's say, in Canada, right? That's why there are all sorts of like subcontinent topics coming up in Canadian political affairs versus it's not coming up in US affairs, because first of all, it's a long process for a person to even become a citizen if you're from certain countries, and if you're not a citizen, it's not a vote bank that they are incentivized to cater to. And then if that's not a vote bank, why do I care? That's basically the vicious cycle that's going on. But I feel like this, like an election like this one, the recent one, right? This is where it came down to needing that vote, right? Like that immigrant vote or first generation immigrant vote type of a thing, which predominantly from India are Hindus in that case. So then there's like a religion angle that comes to that. Right. So I could see this election get so close that this was, I think, the first time in American history, maybe, or at least from what I've seen, that Indians actually mattered in the political discourse of this election. And I hope it keeps increasing like that. But then moving back to the movie, right? You have interviewed so many people. Like and the range of kind of experiences that you've covered in the movie, I mean, truly hats off to you. Because if you see, there is one kind of victim of this entire process who is a doctor, a highly qualified doctor, and then what the doctor's family has to go through and all of those. On the totally different side, you have people who may have lost a spouse, right? And I think this one was the shooting, mass shooting kind of incident, as she lost her husband, and then her situation is in a limbo without any status to protect her and stuff like that. Which story, like, is there any story outside of whatever you've kind of covered in the movie that was so heart-wrenching that you couldn't put it in the movie?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a good question, because I interviewed so many people. My main emphasis, I mean, you really made me think. Thank you. I kind of picked stories based on their human experience of being on their visa or a green card backlog situation, as well as their professions. That was big on my mind, because if I would have captured all engineers or, mostly doctors or scientists, that wouldn't have really done justice to the diaspora, right? To the people who are suffering. So I tried and you must have seen, like, there is no story from Silicon Valley. So there are many people who ask me, like, how come, you haven't featured anybody from Silicon Valley? Because the first thing people think about, when this is a problem affecting Indian immigrants, Silicon Valley techies are affected. I'm like, no, that's the myth I really wanted to break and really crush it. That I said people just feel that people just, literally equate, it's just a very small population, who is working in Silicon Valley, and they don't get that sympathy because you're working in Silicon Valley. What's your problem? You're minting money over there. So I wanted to break that notion. And that's why one of the characters, in fact, Dr. Lopa Mathur, she says it so eloquently that people feel that, we are just minting money here, and so what, even if, like, one spouse doesn't have a job, come on, it's hard to make ends meet, especially if you're not in Silicon Valley. So I would say that was my first criteria, that I did not want to just, I mean, of course, if any compelling story would have come in, and I wouldn't have said, because it is from Silicon Valley, I'm not going to take. No, I would definitely not do that. But when I interviewed people, nothing really struck me, which was not covered in other stories.
Yeah.
Also,
plus you let another movie do its job anyway. That's for here or to go. That kind of.
Yeah, right. They've done a fantastic job showcasing the Silicon Valley techies issues, with the immigration. That's a fantastic film. But that's why I wanted to really, cover the gamut of, professions and people's lives. Like, one is in the East Coast, one is in the Midwest, right? And then how exactly one is in the Midwest. Then we have people in Pennsylvania, Atlanta. We actually had a story from Atlanta, Georgia, but we couldn't take it in. At the last moment, we had to drop that.
So recently, there's like a viral reel that I saw where the CEO of Perplexity, which is like $1 billion startup right now, it's a unicorn, is tweeting that, hey, I'm waiting for my green card since 3 years. Arvind Srinivasan, if an entrepreneur who has added so much to the US economy and created like a unicorn of a startup, is it like, hey, we don't need you, or we want to trouble you and make you, keep going in circles in this whole thing and play you around? Is that really the indirect signal that we are sending to such people?
Yeah. See, now Saiman is to an American citizen, okay, and I'm a very proud, happy American citizen. I took the citizenship by choice, right? My kids are American, so I really feel I feel this is so sad. This should not happen, right? Because we are going to lose precious people, who can come here, study, create jobs, right? They're not taking away jobs. That is again another myth. And time and again, research has shown that immigrants create jobs, right? Fantastic research done by Vivek Wadhwa and Ann Lee. That's how I think her last name is pronounced, from Berkeley, that they have done such fantastic research that about how immigrants have actually contributed, to this economy. Now, as you said, case in point that, the founder of this company, who is already contributing so much, already, raising so much for the economy of America, if that person someday gets frustrated, or if some other country, says, hey, come here, you will thrive here, we'll give you permanent residency, that will be such a big loss for US, right? And this is one of thing that we are aware of. God knows, how many immigrants are already packing their bags. A story like that in our film. We have a similar story about two entrepreneurs and what happened to their lives.
Yeah.
So reality, people are leaving, and US at the end of the day, the hype of coming to the US is not dying down. So that's why it's a big irony. Like, I don't know what exactly is happening. Like,
I think a large portion of it, since you're a filmmaker, I think you'll resonate with this as well. A large portion of it, any country can do to attract people towards either their culture or their land, are the instruments that they have in narrative setting. So Hollywood is a big instrument. There's no other film industry in the world, and maybe there's like Korean drama and all that, that's like taking over now a little bit, but then there is still, Indians are educated in English, most people, at least the people who would want to then come to the US or the Western world. Nobody is educated in Korean, and subtitles are there, but then it's not like, you will feel that affinity and glamorization of that culture versus something that you are watching in English. And now when you have Hollywood, like, that's an over glamorization. I feel like Hollywood is less an entertainment type of a thing and more a nation building, national myth, or a national narrative building kind of an industry, which is why the US treats it as such an important element of the United States. And this is a part which me as an engineer couldn't understand. But then me looking at, okay, this is the problem. This is a political issue. This is the political ramification of it. And why aren't people able to get it, even if it logically makes sense? That's when I have to keep my engineering hat aside and then think of it from a political standpoint. Politics is never engineering. It's all about making sure that there is a certain concentration of power. You kind of make sure that you have the allegiance of certain people to vote for you and all those things. So I'm glad that you're creating this alternate kind of industry through this movie as a first step, where it is about kind of raising awareness. And somehow, I've been to the Midwest quite a bit. I've been to very, very conservative parts of America, like very, very, quote unquote, completely red, parts of America. And people there paint all immigrants with one brush. And
mention Hollywood, but let's not forget Bollywood. We should thank Karan Johar for that, right? Absolutely. Like, he has really, made it so lucrative and so enticing. Wow, just look at Kalhonaho. When I saw Kalhonaho when I was in India, and I had never seen New York City, I'm like, wow, beautiful. So, jokes apart, what I mean to say is that if Hollywood has become this cultural, kind of an emblem, identity everybody aspires to have, because it kind of, becomes easy for people to identify with that. Let's not forget our own industry, and Hollywood has also done a great job, of selling US. And I've always felt like, how does anybody who just goes to US start working there? Don't they go through any visa issues? Don't they have any situation? That is never shown.
No, you just show a plane landing and that's it.
Absolutely. But in all seriousness, the more I would say, which I strongly feel about, is that this is the country, let's face it. Even if you're facing immigration issues, even if there are lots of hurdles in you becoming an American citizen, the day-to-day Americans who work with you, they are absolutely, they're so amazing, right? Of course, there are inherent problems in every country, like racism, maybe the class divide. All these, things there will be bad apples everywhere. But I really feel this is the country which really, lets people assimilate also. Like, if you're willing to become an American in that sense, this country will let you, right? The everyday Americans will not, tell you that, oh, you're in a green card backlog, so I'll treat you differently. No. They will not do that. This is all happening at the political level, where there is no will to fix the issue. In my film also, I couldn't include all of them, but there were literally every single person I have interviewed, people who are there in the film and, not in the film, I couldn't include. They have said that their bosses, their supervisors, their colleagues, they filled in for them when they had to rush, back to India to get a stamping done. Like they just approved their leaves when, there were no leaves left, just because they had to get something related with immigration done. Absolutely amazing. So everyone has echoed. Like, I have not found a single, single subject, single character who complained that somebody took advantage at a human level. Again, at a human level. Yeah. Now corporations, right? Yes. I've heard stories where people have been denied their promotion, their, what is it called, bonus. They have been denied their bonus because they say, oh, we are already spending so much money on your visa renewals. Yeah. Such kind of, absolutely, harassment definitely happens. But again, every country, no country is immune to such bad apples or, such fallacies, right? No country is immune. Forget ball. I mean to say, at a very human to human, the kind of work culture that people really enjoy here, right? People, look at the education, look at the work ethic, work culture that people enjoy. And that's why more and more people will be encouraged to come here despite the immigration issues. What I think I am fighting for, what you are fighting for, people are aware about the immigration hurdles, is that it's not fair to make anyone go through that. It is just taking away all their energies from something which can be fixed by commonsensical reforms, right? And not make them suffer like this. And then there are a lot of nuances, like, why is this happening? Is it a race issue? Is it a fairness issue? It is an equality issue. Per country cap. Now, per country cap, okay, you put it at 7%, but there are so many countries, like, isn't there a big joke feel about that? There is an unborn kid right now in Iceland who is guaranteed a green card as soon as, that kid comes here. Right? Because the 7% per country cap never gets filled up.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody from India right now who is already in the US has to wait for years and years for like multi-decade green card backlog. And the biggest inherent irony in this whole situation, what I'm really trying to emphasize through my film, is that we are talking about a bunch of immigrants who are already in this country.
Right.
I'm not even talking about people who are wanting to come, which fine. That is separate discussion and separate reform maybe. But we are talking about people who are already here. They have been cleared for green card. Yes, your qualifications, your expertise, your skills, everything, you're flawless, you are law abiding. There is no red flag in your character. You have approved for green card, but will not give you a green card. Like just to give a quick analogy for people who probably don't understand what is the crisis here, is that imagine you go to watch a film. And at the ticket window, what will happen? If the film is houseful, what happens? They put a window there, houseful, you cannot get a single ticket now. Great. You become grumpy, eat an ice cream and go home. But you don't get to watch the film. You accept the problem. Like, I didn't get to watch the film. Here, what is happening is they say, come, I'll give you the ticket, but I will not let you watch the film. How does that work? So we'll put you in the wait list, and that wait list has no end, right? It's like, and it's not even that, okay, if there are any vacancies left, we'll let you in. No, there is no vacancy. Done. No vacancy right now for Indian immigrants and a lot of other immigrants, who are getting affected by the same problem. So the direct analogy, I would say, that don't give those movie tickets if you cannot show them the film. Don't give them in fact, I mean, Simon, I know probably this discussion is not for that, but the most plausible way, I think, to fix this problem is, of course, to use those unused green cards by other countries for the people who are already stuck in multi-decade green card backlog, okay? Because we know there are millions of people who are stuck. You cannot suddenly uproot their lives by saying, okay, line khatam, now we are not going to give out, tickets at all. We can't say that. That is like being really unfair, and, that's an injustice.
Right.
But for new people who are coming in, I really feel this can be averted by saying there are no green cards available right now. But you know what? That takes a lot, because it's not just about a human to human connection that I tell you that please don't go there. Don't join that line because there are no green cards available. There are corporations, there is money involved in it, right? I mean, just imagine the amount of money every immigrant spends in the umpteen renewals that they have to go through. Whenever you have to travel to India, how much, I mean, it's like, so it's unfortunately, it's not a black and white issue.
Right.
There are so many grays in between. Who is getting benefited? Who is getting victimized? Are there any vested interest in that? I mean, people are lobbying, at the Hill. So there are lots of, you put it, my job as a filmmaker, I felt, was to create awareness about this issue. See, in my lifetime, I really don't know, Simon, in my lifetime, whether I'll be able to see that this problem is solved. I don't know. I'm an eternal optimist, so who knows? This administration might solve it. Great. I will always feel that, okay, the next administration will solve it. But I will see it and then I'll believe it. Yeah, that issue is solved, right? But what I can do, my advocacy is my film. What I can do is that spread awareness about this issue, like make people understand that, guys, there is a problem here, right? That awareness is not there. Like, I am surrounded by backlog, who are from literally, we call where I live here in Connecticut, we call it as jokingly, we call it as like a immigrant hub. Why? Because my husband and I are from India originally. We have a couple, who are from Greece. Then there is a couple who is from Britain and Korea. So we are like literally, and then American, of course. So we are like literally surrounded by people. Then there is on our street, there are people from Portugal. There are people from Spain. So we are like literally a very diverse, immigrant hub in our own neighborhood. But what I'm trying to say, they were completely oblivious to this issue. When I told them about my documentary, that this is going to get on PBS, this will be on an OTT platform, they were like, okay, what is this about? And when I told them this is the subject, nobody knew about it. Literally nobody knew about it. And these are all highly qualified people working in white collar jobs. Again, they're working day in and day out with Indians.
Yep.
Right? So they were like, I work with so many Indians. Oh, amazing. I have such a good time. I go and enjoy the curry sometimes with them, So they just know about India that much. And I don't blame them, because we haven't done a great job of educating them. Have we?
Right.
No.
Yep.
We haven't, because we, as you said, we have normalized it. So the person I'm going and having Punjabi food with, if that person is stuck in a green card backlog, but if that person doesn't open his mouth or her mouth and tell that person that, guys, you know what, it's so tough here, and not as a sob story. I understand people don't speak about it because they don't want to be crybabies. I get that. However, there has to be a balance. You got to, I mean, everyone, in a way, that activism need not be at the, at the level of Congress or at the Hill. It has to be in our own way. Like, I'm plausible. I think it's a part of activism, right? My whole mission is just to create the awareness like that, because again, that's the first step. That's a very first step, I feel, to create awareness. You cannot start talking about solutions when there is, people don't know what the problem is.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
You're a doctor. What is your problem? You're on a visa. watch the film. Because, at all, medium is so potent. It can help you really, sensitize and create that empathy for any issue. Yeah.
See, I've been here for, I don't know, I think about 10 years or so now, 9-10 years. And my political views have kind of shifted over time, as you grow older and as you kind of understand the world better and know what's more applicable to you, etc. Political views keep shifting. But one of the things that really motivated me, that was the decision point where, almost a decision point where I was like, hey, yeah, this sounds right. This makes sense. Was in 2012 when Obama got re-elected. And he was giving his victory speech, is basically that powerful line which pretty much every American president says in their victory speeches or their inauguration, etc. In America, you have the opportunity which is equal to pretty much everyone, no matter where you're born. That word, no matter where you're born, and then what translates to real ground reality, right? I'm like, this is like not even a vague mismatch. This is like a documented mismatch in what's happened. Like how the hell does no matter where you're born, you have equal opportunity hold on ground? This has fundamentally violated that premise by having this kind of legislation, but then policy making people stuck as a result of like legislation as well. At that point, that was one thing that actually put me past the finish line in making that decision of, okay, yeah, this is a great place to go. Let's go explore the world. And I was fairly young, so I was like very delusional also at that point, which I wouldn't complain about. I am actually thankful for the fact that I was delusional back then, because that risk taking kind of leads you to different places. But no matter where you're born is simply not true.
You know what? Maybe they should add something in for the next presidents to use that line. They should say, no, provided you are a citizen, this is the land of the free. You will get all the opportunities, because that's the truth, right? If you're on a visa, if you're in a green card backlog, you are stuck. You cannot. Let's face it. Like if you are an engineer and if you are good at pottery, you cannot even, like if you're on a H-1B visa, you cannot even go and teach somebody, and get some money for that.
Right.
It has to be, yeah.
What would you say? See, let's say I'm like a hardcore kind of person who has never seen too many immigrants. I'm sitting somewhere in, I don't know, Des Moines, Iowa or something like that, in the middle of a cornfield. I have a barn over there, but then my senator has like pretty good hold in Congress, right? But my stance is basically like, hey, like there are so many countries in the world, and this is our country. We make our rules, and this is how the rule is. Like, why the heck can't you just follow it? Like, why change it? What's the big deal? Like, how do we have an obligation to accept you guys, and why should we? If this is my stance, sitting in the middle of a cornfield in Des Moines, Iowa, what would you say to such a person?
Yeah, firstly, you know what? I will not even blame that person to have that kind of notion. Okay, because again, I really feel the onus is on us. How much have we done to educate that person, and to what length have we gone, right? So I feel personally, I think I have taken that step. I feel very proud about that, because right now this film is actually on PBS. It has the potential of reaching the farthest corners of US, which probably have no penetration about high-skilled immigration issue. So if that person, what I'll say that, okay, you have your views, good, you should definitely keep up with that, but just watch this film, okay, when it gets on your members' PBS station, and watch it, and then let me know, is this fair for any human being to be treated in this country like that? Now, if that person feels that, but you have a choice. You have a choice to go back. That's true. You have a choice to go back. But now I'm wearing my American hat. I'm an American citizen. If you let doctors, engineers, scientists, thinkers, if you just tell them, okay, you know what, if you cannot live here because of all these hurdles, just let them go. You are going to lose this talent. It is going to be a crisis. Maybe not now. Maybe in the next 30 years. So when your kids are, growing up, probably you will not see the same economy that America is right now, right? You extrapolate that issue to, the next 30, 40 years and see what it is going to happen. And that is, I think, the biggest crisis. In fact, you know what? I mean, according to me, there are two crises here. One is a human crisis. People are suffering. People are stagnating. There's an everyday immigration sword hanging on your neck, which shouldn't be in any civilized first world country. The second crisis is of losing these people, because there will be a tipping point, right? Every crisis has a tipping point. A tipping point. You cannot, I mean, are you going to wait for the death of somebody? I mean, people are not going to get green cards if the situation doesn't change in the way it is. Nobody's going to get a green card in their lifetime. We all are aware about it. What is going to happen? Either they're going to die, just waiting for their green cards, or they will have to leave the country, right? After a certain stage, how many times can they even renew H-1B? So according to that's a major crisis. So what I will tell that person, yes, firstly, I will assume that that person has, good intentions. He's a well-intentioned, good human being. As I said, I don't go with the, with the judgment that everybody's, people who don't know this issue are bad. No, the ignorance is not how do I say? Ignorance is not a crime. If you don't do a good job of educating the people. Despite me telling that person or showing this film, if they choose to be ignorant about this issue, then yes, then, their intentions are completely there. I cannot do much about it. But I feel predominantly, because maybe that person is actually going to a doctor who is an immigrant doctor there. I'm not assuming it is an Indian immigrant doctor, could be any immigrant doctor, right? So the person is already getting benefited by some immigrant. Let's not even forget, everything that you see, I mean, all these, like OTT platforms, computers, the industries that you're working and, you're getting benefited by, there are immigrant workers there. Let's not forget that. Like, you open your computer and you start, Googling something or sending emails. Who are the people working behind the scenes, right? And when I say immigrants, I'm not talking only about first generation and second generation immigrants. I mean, firstly, I'll tell that person, unless you are sure you're 100% native born, you are also an immigrant. Maybe your ancestors just probably came generations back. And
Mayflower people. Yeah,
exactly, right? So you're also an immigrant. So technically you cannot say, but yeah, I mean, it is unfairness, but people have worked hard. Revolutions have been created, revolutions are born, not created. Sorry, right. Revolutions are born to fix the issue. Sometimes people have to take things in their hand. And here we are just trying to create a momentum where we create an awareness about this boiling issue. Because I feel it's high time people understand that this is a big crisis. Again, it's a human crisis, as well as it's a crisis for the American economy. I would give these two notions that, do you understand what is at stake? And if that person asks me, what is at stake? It's a human crisis and the American economic crisis.
Yeah. To your point of this whole human crisis thing, right? See, that's part of why I started Smart Green Card as well. See, when I got my EB1A, I'm like, hey, look, there is actually a path. I mean, yes, it is not the ideal solution, but are you going to sit and cry about like Congress not acting, or are you going to use that one path which may be available for you to get it done in a quicker way and move on, right? So, and then even to this day, I have a lot of people, right, like generally trolling. It's like, hey, like this guy got an EB1A and like he's trying to make money out of it now and blah, 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 blah. I'm honestly telling people it's so hard to help someone like build their profile and legitimately and then get the EB1, that I'd rather be doing something else at this point. I literally have bigger fishes to fry. I have better fishes to fry. The reason I am in this right now is mainly because it is such a big issue for immigrants. And when I look at the impact that Smart Green Card is creating, each person that we help get out of this, whirlpool of a situation that there is with the lottery, with either the lottery or either the H-1B lottery or the green card wait, is a 50-year, pain that we are saving. I mean, and then now if we have like 100 approvals, that's 5,000 years of pain that we have saved. Which other place will I be able to create this kind of an impact?
Yeah.
And it's not like, this is the thing that I would wish to do all day long every day, but I literally feel obligated as an immigrant to, who has traversed it to the other side, to help these people, or help as many people as I possibly can. And then people are like, oh, okay, why do you make money? What do I do? Like, can I help you? Can I help like 200, 300, 500 of you without being that dedicated in the process that I need this to, run the show, essentially? So, I mean, this is like an infinite loop at some point where, we see this all the time in our pre-enrollment kind of activity that we do, and we only select people that we'll be able to serve. But I see this all the time. It's like people who have questions always come back with questions and questions and questions, and then people who actually understand it just go through the process and they are done. And the trend continues even now, because 99.999% of the people who even go through our program don't even talk about how they got the EB1A and that the other people can get it and do it, etc., etc. That's only that very, very small minority of the people that actually put their story out saying, hey, look, forget about smart green card. I don't even care if you attribute smart green card to it or not. My point is, look, I got through the EB1A thing, and this is one way where you can solve your crisis. At least now by acting for an entire year. But then, no, I mean, first of all, you're not willing to put it out. And secondly, like, there's all this thing that, hey, this guy. I'd rather be doing something else, honestly. It's this is,
We completely agree that there is a tendency when you're in our diaspora for some reason. And I feel it's very unfortunate that once my job is done, like, I just want to go past it. Now, there are, as a filmmaker, or maybe just as a person that I am, I kind of look at it like, okay, why would probably that person, behave like this, or, a family behave like that? Maybe they have gone through so many, like, life shattering issues and experience of being on H1B, constant renewals on H4. Maybe, the spouse has gone through, their stories and their experiences, that they don't even want to look at it again from any other lens of even helping. Right. So maybe they are doing it from a point of view of, okay, now this is done deal. I want to go past this. Like, I don't want to ever visit this trauma. Like I did.
PTSD, basically.
Correct. Yeah. And people actually have said that to me. One of my characters in the film, actually told me that her husband refused to watch the film. Okay. So she asked her husband to watch the film. She has appeared in the film, but he actually said that it is very traumatic for me to even just experience, what our experience has been, of being in the immigration backlog and all. So there are people who probably are really just going through that, and they just want to shut the door of immigration woes and move on with their life. They literally want to just move on with their life. Now, I understand and I respect their choices. But what is happening because of that, when you just shut the door because of whatever issues? Now, there's this other, absolutely, there's other kind of people who are like, okay, I'm done, that's fine. Now there are millions of immigrants stuck. Bad luck. Right?
I see another trend, adding on to this. I see a trend where people have so much PTSD that after a certain point, whatever they do, they themselves are not having the conviction that, hey, look, I have done a right thing. Yeah. They're like, oh no, they'll still come after me. They'll do this and they'll do that. It's always this like chore mentality type of a thing that's deep within. And I don't know if this system is designed to make you feel that way for years, and then you just end up continuing that you yourself end up thinking that you are inferior citizen. Like, even after you become a citizen, there's a lot of people who literally are like, oh, there's still a difference. Like, there is still, I am inferior type of a thing, or mujhe kya type of a thing as well. And a lot of that is coming from this thing where they are like, hey, I may have done something wrong. Like, why is it so good? It's like when you subject a child since its birth to a lot of fearful scenarios, it will not be able to accept a scenario filled with happiness. It'll always be looking for, hey, probably, why is something wrong here? Why is it so good?
Years back, I was working on a documentary about public education, okay, with a very famous producer and filmmaker, Davis Guggenheim, in Hollywood. So it was a fascinating subject. And I was researching a lot for that documentary. That was my main job. I found that America doesn't really stand number one in a lot of things when it comes to education. That is how my film actually starts, right? That it is not really number one in languages or science or math, many other things. You know what? It stands the number one in the entire world. You know what?
It's a narrative.
Self-esteem and confidence.
Yeah. Marketing, i.e. marketing. All of that translates into being great marketers.
Yeah, exactly. It translates. But inherently, American people, the American educational system also, the way it is built, and which is good, it really builds your self-esteem and confidence to such a high level that nobody can really even penetrate that or shatter it. Now, let's look at, obviously totally opposite, in a different continent, Indian educational system, right? I think somewhere down the line, because in being in India, at the end of the day, it is a survival of the fittest, right? Like, look at the applications, for one single job, how many applications would there be? Even in US, of course, you have a lot of competition, but the competition that is there in India, even to get in the right colleges, that, right?
Yep.
Like IITs and all the the medical entrance exams. So it is always survival of the fittest. Like, unless you are the best, you will not even be able to survive. Forget about living. Survival itself is a big crisis. So I think our conditioning, I really feel it's more about inherently the kind of people we are conditioned to be. So that's why there is a huge difference between how, even if you get a green card, even if you become like top level executive, you will still have doubts. So having doubts, being humble, being modest, like some of the cultural nuances of, what it is to be respectful or being, humble is construed as, sometimes, it is even construed as, underconfident, right? So there are different, I just consider it as, you're right. And there is so much of PTSD that, we are so conditioned that, that this is how it has to be. Like, I have to constantly stay in that fearful immigration issue that, I cannot be liberated. I cannot be free. But inherently, I feel, I don't know whether this is applicable to the podcast, but I'm just going to say this, that America really works hard on, making their kids, and I see it, I have 2 kids in the school system, how much it inculcates their self-esteem and confidence. And this is absolutely a learnable thing. We have to learn from them. And that's why you're right. Like, when we talk to people from our diaspora, it is so important for them to understand that, again, as you said, don't normalize this. It's okay to amplify it. It's okay to say that I'm a victim of green card backlog, right? There is a lot of shame.
Yep.
I don't know. I culturally, we carry all these baggages, right? Like, oh, there's a lot of shame. How can I tell, somebody that I'm having issues? There's a lot of taboo about this.
Yeah.
A lot of shame. Telling your own family members, like, how many people are really able to tell their family that I cannot come to India often because of green card issues?
Yeah. I was talking to another person on the podcast. It's actually one of our approved clients. He brought up a very interesting point. He's like, he hadn't been to India for, I think 8 years or something, like after he got married and came to the US, and now he got his like EB1A approved, and he's like, I'm going to go to my, my parents and his wife. I think he has never been to his wife's house because they got married and then the next day they came to the US. So he's like, the first thing I'm going to do is like go back and visit my wife's house and my in-laws in their house. And he brought up this point that after a certain point, people actually started asking him, hey, have you done something wrong in India that you're worried that cops will kind of arrest you if you come to India? You're doing things right your entire life and being asked that question, either you have done something wrong here in India that you're not coming to India, or you have done something wrong in the US that you are fearing that if you go back, then they'll kind of, hold you up or something.
Oh my God, that is so sad. I really feel sorry for the person.
And
Yeah.
added to all the mental stress that you have anyway going through the US immigration system, you have this mental stress also added to that, where people are looking at you like you're like a con man or something.
Oh my God, I feel so sorry. No, but see, it all boils down to the same question, Simon. How much of a job have we really done to educate our own people? Like, I went to India, and with my own money, I have tried my best to screen this film at multiple places. Like, literally, I have called up people that, hey, to some university professor or a library that, hey, I'm so and so, I've made this film. There are a lot of people who are, I've got both, like, some are really interested. I got really some good screenings there, good opportunity to talk to people. And that is where, people actually opened up about this. Like, there have been people who have lost their nephews and nieces, they committed suicide because they were so ashamed to tell their people that, they got rejected, in a
Visa interview or whatever it is.
Or a H-1B visa lottery or something. And then there is shame. And this coming back thing also, that is completely another subject, like people consider that as a defeat. People consider that as, lost hope. So there was, the most recent screening that I had at Vidyut at Prithvi in Mumbai was fascinating. One of the ladies actually said that there needs to be an impact campaign about that, it's okay to come back. Again, let's not normalize that what is happening. And in fact, in our own diaspora, I really feel in our own community, there needs to be this sensitization that if you are facing a problem about green card, talk to somebody. It's okay for you to say that I am a victim of the broken immigration system. Right. But I think our whole culture is about masking, right? I mean, It's about however hurting you are inside, however you're suffering, you just have to put makeup and lipstick and look good.
Just brush it under the rug and pretend it doesn't, it isn't there. There's the thing that pisses me off the most, even in this whole EB1A thing, right, is, I'm among all the people who have probably explored the EB1A path before me and after me, like including our clients, I'm probably one of the younger ones. I'm probably younger than 80% of them at least, right? Like most of these people are in their 40s, etc. And we are helping them, which I'm happy about. But the thing that I'm pissed about the most is all these people who got the EB1 before me. Why the heck are you silent? Right? Like, I mean, what's wrong? Like, why aren't you telling this? Like, why did I have to be the first person out there like 3 years ago? And it's not like EB1A was there 3 years ago, only 3 years, back. It was there for a long time. It was there like 10 years ago also. Yeah. So why should I have been the first person yelling at the top of my voice that, hey, look, there is a way out. It's not easy. It'll need you to work your ass off for like a bunch of years, but then it is possible. And how hard is it to like just yell it at the top of your voice?
Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about. Oh, my God. Yeah. See, that's a very bad mentality that if I progress, I don't want somebody else to progress. I mean, I don't think we'll be able to include this in the podcast, but I'm happy to.
I mean, it's a pretty free-flowing conversation. I'm all in for controversial stuff.
Controversy. But that is a very, I don't know. This is quite a typical mentality that, crab mentality.
Yeah.
Right? If you see somebody who is progressing, I mean, let's face it, how many people will you see that they will actually support you? There'll be a lot of people who will try to pull you back. And again, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say that this is pertaining to a specific nationality. Maybe you have actually experienced it, particular to Indians. But I probably feel, those kind of people exist everywhere.
I mean, it's not just pertaining to this for sure. It's there everywhere. Like you look at certain YouTube comments of any major creator, and you'll find that like it's race agnostic. It transcends everything. Like human hate and human crab mentality transcends everything. But the point is that crab mentality is less adversely impactful in some areas, and it is really adversely impactful in certain areas. I'll give you examples, right? So for example, if someone does, let's say someone is playing basketball, and then people are like, hey, yeah, this is the controversy about this person, blah blah blah, he did this and he did drugs or something like that, it's probably less impactful overall as a populace. But then if someone is telling, hey, look, there is this path, there is this EB1A path, you can go do this way, blah blah blah, and most of this content is actually free out there, right? YouTube is free, and then people are like, no, this is not possible, this is that, this is this, without having done it themselves. And then there are people who actually have done it themselves who are not talking about it. That crab mentality has a bigger effect on so many families than the other crab mentality. So it transcends race, it transcends everything, but then the impact is different, and that's what bothers me.
Yeah, it's one-upmanship, it's competitiveness, it's bad. I mean, this is not even competitiveness, this is just meanness, according to me.
I wish there was competitiveness. I wish people were like, okay, इसने किया है तो मैं भी करूंगा. Like forget about like taking smart green card. I am not even talking about smart green card. I'm like, you guys need to try this. The biggest thing I keep yelling at the top of my voice is, regardless of if you want to do the EB1A or not, with anyone or not, this is a good path to go in, because it only adds to your career. It requires you to do so many things to shine in your career and then prove that you're extraordinary in something. Who the hell is complaining against that? Like, don't you want to be good in your career?
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
know.
Anyway, on that note, first of all, massive congratulations on your PBS debut. That's happening. I think everyone should go watch that movie. I've watched that movie myself as well. I'm making my entire team watch that movie now, because it's important. It conveys a very precise message of who we are serving as well. And I think our team needs to know at the end of the day what kind of public impact they are a part of through whatever work they are doing. But then even more than that, I want to ask every viewer of this podcast to go watch this documentary. It's an amazing one, now airing on PBS as well, and soon to come on many more places. We also have like a major announcement to make soon as well. So definitely stay tuned to this. And anything you have to say other than whatever I've said, Vidyut?
No, I mean, absolutely. You've said everything, Simon. I'm just going to request the viewers of this show to watch this film, to get acclimatized to what exactly is this whole high-skilled immigration issue crisis we are talking about. And, it's all about human stories. You will see the human emotional impact that people are suffering. Lives are getting, shattered because of that. And unless you watch it, and nothing like an audiovisual medium, right? So do watch it. It's there on my website. The film is available on Binge Network. Through Binge Network, you can watch it on Apple TV. You can watch it on iOS. You can watch it on Google Play. You can watch it on Roku.
Thank you, Vidyut.
Awareness, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure this is not the last time you'll be here. I'm looking forward to all the future engagements that we'll be having together as well. A lot to be announced soon too. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Simon. This was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.